Okay, hopefully that works. Let me know if you guys can see me. So we had planned to do what we're going to do right now, which is just a quick new moon ritual to begin. We call it, of course, picking scabs, but to begin the work of opening ourselves to the work of this season using the energy of the new moon. This is a new moon in Cancer. There's Marianne. How are you guys? This is a new moon in Cancer, and such a really powerful opportunity, because the hardest part of shadow work really is beginning. It's about unearthing. There you guys are. Bianca's there, Andrea's there, Laura and Jill and Stacy and Dulcie and Marianne. Perfect. Okay. So tonight what I want to do is I want to use the energy of this new moon to open a space, to open a container, to set intentions for our collective tonight, and for you to set an individual intention tonight for healing. There you are. Hi, everybody. Hi, Cecilia and Lisa and Laura. So happy that you're here. Truly, truly happy. Lisa Newsom, Lisa Haywood, and Jessica's there, and Dina's there. So I want you to ask yourself tonight, this is a really important question. We just set intentions together as a big collective. So if you already set your intention there and you're happy with it, that's great. But I would like you to think of a shadow intention. An intention for how you will work with the energies that we are navigating in this shadow terrain together in the next, few months ahead. So I want you to think tonight about, under this new moon in Cancer, which is all about the mother, it's all about nurturing, it's about home and feeling a sense of deep compassion, being able to love yourself despite your flaws. I want you to think about what would self-love mean for you? What intention could you set around self-love tonight with regard to your shadow? And if you know what one of your, we are the scab pickers. If you know what one of your big scabs is, and if you're ready to open him, this is the best night probably of our entire time together to a certain extent. This is the best night for you to begin that process. And so I want you to ask yourself, where is the big wound? And sometimes it's really hard to see. And I'll tell you something, a lot of times you can only really find that big wound underneath your anger, underneath your frustration. And that big wound, we don't tend to get angry at people we love around that big wound. That big wound tends to be the stuff that spills out and we get angry at strangers over it. You know what I mean? Or we project it onto people in our work relationships, right? So what is the big wound, do you think? What is the big scab that you're gonna go in and pick? Because we talked about the fact that in the live debrief, right? I know, are you guys tired of me yet? I feel kind of bad. I'm like, you probably really don't want to see me again for another half an hour, but here we are, right? So underneath your jealousy, underneath your anger, underneath the resentment, right? Underneath all those things is your big issue, is your big scab. And the reality is you could spend the rest of your life just letting that scab be. Some of your scabs are pretty well healed and they're like 20 years old. So is it likely you're gonna hit it and knock the top of it off and it's gonna bleed? Probably not. You could probably take a lot of your scabs to the grave. But here's the problem, your scabs show up in other areas. Okay, so just because your scab looks like it healed doesn't mean that the issue is healed. And so that trauma boils and continues to fester underneath what you think is a healed space. And so that's why we have to open it and get in there and take a look. Oh, thank you. No, and life isn't fair or easy, right? Like, I mean, I think that's part of it too. And a lot of us look and say, we're tired, right? You saw that in the feed of that event just now. People are tired. They've been trying to work through some of these things for the better part of their lives. And so they lose faith too. Is it really going to work this time? Is it really worth going in there and doing that work? You guys know it is worth going in there and doing that work, because you know that, and it is, the scab is a funny analogy, but what happens to a scab when you really do finally pick it off and let the sunlight hit it, and it's like it gets disinfected. We're trying to disinfect tonight. What is still infected? I'm going to go quiet for a minute, because to be honest, I want to sit with that question. I am doing this work alongside you. I know I continue to say that over and over again, but I think it's really important for you to know that, like, I'm still navigating this. I'm 45. I've been doing this work for a long time. You know what I mean? But I'm still navigating. I don't have the answers, and I know I still have some infected places because I'm still here. I think once you're done and everything's healed and you're kind of good, I still have stuff, right? Okay. It's starting to feel liberating looking at the face of my shadow, Nathan says. How cool is that? And we've only just begun. I mean, dude, if you're there already, that's kind of awesome, I have to say. So Diana says, I'm pretty sure mine is from a past life that make November and December sad and weepy, not sure how to work through it, right? So it's like a seasonal thing, which a lot of us have that around certain seasons of the year. And there's a lot of us actually who don't know why. Why is November always sad? Why is December always sad? No. So Lisa Newsom, fantastic question. Honestly, do you need to remember why this big shadow occurred, scab, or just look at your actions? You don't have to know why, and you don't have to know when to heal it. I think a lot of people wait for that because they're like, well, as soon as I figure out what my issue is, I'll heal it. Or as soon as I figure out what that big trauma was. And it's like, what if it happened to you in a past life? How are you going to get to the bottom of that now? If the trauma happened to you 300 years ago, it'll be very hard for you outside of a regression context to really figure that out. And even in a regression context, you may not be able to get to the bottom of that. That's right. So Norma, I'm reading your comment too, right? So it's, and a lot of us have that too, where the family feels like your husband and your kids give you what you need, so they don't have to give you anything, right? That's a very common challenge for a lot of people, actually. So we see you. We can recognize that. Just feeling bitter, just feeling angry, right? Why do I crave attention when I'm such an introvert at heart, right? It's good to ask. Because when we crave attention, it's always because someone didn't pay attention who should have. And so it's a very worthwhile question to ask yourself, who is it that didn't give me the attention I needed? And how can I find that in a productive way now, in a good way, right? So because we don't want to go looking for attention or, you know, anything that isn't going to serve our highest good. We don't want to be, we don't want to act out and try to get attention from someone in an unproductive way. Oh, interesting. So PK says, I'm afraid to do journaling after sleeping. I have strong, scary dreams. That's okay. And your dreams could get weird, you know, during shadow time. So you decide how much journaling is good for you and what if that resonates with you and when. So Brittany says, what if you know for a fact that you should have gotten attention, but you don't seek it? What would that mean? It's just healed space for you. Like, one of the things I want to really encourage you is don't question healed space. If you're in healed space around something, don't worry about it. What that means is someone else, Brittany, filled that need for you. And so it didn't stay an open wound. It healed itself somehow. And let the dreams be good. You know, my dreams, you guys, because again, I'm doing this work with you, have been really intense, but I'm not recalling them. It's almost like they're too intense. And so my guides are not, like, they're just leaving the interpretation piece out, which a lot of times I really enjoy that. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but sometimes they can be so intense that we don't remember them. Well, that's okay. So PK, I want to zero in on PK's comment because it's hugely important. She said, I'm really scared. The most important thing, if you can get to it by the end of December, it's a lifelong thing, but if you can get there during this class, I would really recommend this for you. Try to get to a place where you don't scare you. World events can scare you. Other people can scare you. The boogeyman can scare you. You should not scare you. Nothing that happens in your body, mind, or psyche should scare you. And so what you want to do to move beyond that is you want to ask your guides to make you, your container, including your dream state and dream time, including your waking state and waking time, all of your thoughts. I want you to ask your spirit guides to make you a safe container for you. It's really important. There should be a time that you come to where you don't scare you. Only external things outside of your control scare you. That's how you know you've really done the work and conquered, I would say. It's a weird word to use, but really conquered the shadow. Because the shadow is the part of you that still freaks you out. You know what I mean? And we all have those parts where it's like, I don't know, that part over there is still pretty creepy. You know, and I have clients who say, when I get mad, I still scare me. Or when I get angry, I still scare me. And it's like, well, as long as you still scare you, you're not in healed space yet. But that's good information. That's work in progress, right? So as long as you get to a place in your life, that's how you heal the little boy and little girl too, by the way, is reminding them that they're always safe with you, right? Because in the perfect parental relationship, we always feel safe with the parent. We know that the parent always operates with intention for our highest good and that they would never harm us physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually under any circumstances. And so that is the ideal relationship for you to have with yourself, where you know that you're operating from a basis of your highest good and that you know that you will never harm yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. But that's a process. So if that's the scab, you can pick that shit off tonight too, right? We all have anger. We all have resentment. We all have jealousy. Come on, guys, right? Like, do we not? We all get jealous. We all get angry. We all get resentful. We all get frustrated. We all scream and cry sometimes. We all do those things. So what you have to remember is you are safe with you. It's okay for you to see yourself angry. It's okay for you to see yourself sad. It's okay. At some point, right? At some point, someone may have told you as a child, you shouldn't scream like that, or, you know, you're scary when you yell like that. You may have internalized that message, or you're scary when you do that, or I don't trust you when you behave like that. And so that little tiny voice goes, I'm scary, or I'm bad when I do that, right? It's a very subconscious and it's not a productive, functional feeling, right? But that little inner monologue still exists. I'm scary when I do that. I'm obnoxious when I talk like that, right? I was always told I talked too much and I was too loud. So every time I was loud, I was like, well, I'm not good when I'm loud. I should not talk so much. You know, and like, for me to grow up and be a teacher, I had to get the hell over that. Because I really was told that I talked too much and I was kind of a know-it-all and I always had an opinion and I should be more quiet. If I had indulged that shadow, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So that's my own work, but just to share what it means to come from a place like that. I don't trust you, right, Megan? I don't trust you. What was Megan's comment? Hold on, it was important. I don't trust you when you behave like that, right? Again, you can say when you behave like that, it hurts my feelings. But when it goes to a core thing like you're not good, or I don't trust you, or there's something wrong with you, that's when it becomes that projection from that other person then becomes part of your identity. And that's where the shadow work really sinks in. When you internalize somebody else's projection and allow it to become part of your own personal story of who you are, you have crossed the line and they have crossed the line. And so I wonder too, the other exercise for you, and I'm doing this with you tonight, by the way. I'm tired AF. Okay, I've been going all day. I'm energized right now. But the reason I'm sitting here telling you guys all this right now is because I really want you to do some of this work tonight. I want you to journal. I want you to sit down and make a list. I want you to actually, if you could really do this for me tonight, because I would love for you to do this exercise, okay? I would love for you to write down all the bullets of your story. Tell me all the bullets. You don't have to show it to me, but if you want to, you can. All the bullets of your story. I was born here. I grew up here. This is what my personality is like. This is what I'm afraid of. This is what I enjoy doing. This is how I love. This is how you know I love you. This is the way I express affection. Your whole story. And then I would love if you went through and highlighted all the parts of that story that are true, that are accurate. And then in a different color or underline, I would like you to go through and either cross out or highlight in a different color all the parts of that story that are not true, that didn't come from you, that don't belong to you, that was a story told to you by someone else. And then, okay, this is the scab list, you guys. This is seriously Teresa Jolly. Like, this is no joke, right? If you did one thing between now and winter solstice that would really pay off, I'm serious. If you went through and you underlined or highlighted all the parts of the story that don't belong to you and you committed to letting those go, that's healing. And I'm telling you, there's big parts of my story that don't belong to me, you know, that were told to me by other people that I accumulated into my story as I went, because eventually if you hear something long enough or you believe something long enough, it becomes true. But when I go back and pull it apart, it's like, you know what, that doesn't have to be part of my story. That's not a part of the story that I wrote. That's a part of the story that was written for me. And I don't want to work with that energy stream anymore, because now I'm a big girl and it's my choice, right? Can you do this? Parts of the story that are you, parts of the story that don't belong to you anymore, and then commit to releasing everything in that right column tonight. I would love for you to burn it. I would love for you to burn it. It can be tomorrow. I wouldn't wait too long, okay? Because you only have your new moon window for a very short period of time. So I wouldn't push this into the weekend. I think if you have a chance to do this tonight or tomorrow, or here's what I'll tell you, wait till next new moon. You'll be ready, you'll be primed. This is still something you can do at a Leo new moon, so it doesn't have to be a Cancer new moon, although you have a lot of watery healing energy now at your fingertips that you're not going to have next month. So it's kind of a choice about how much time you have. And don't, here's what I will tell you, because I'm a procrastinator. It's one of my shadow things. Don't make this too fancy, because you won't do it. So I would say get just a scrap piece of paper and start writing my story. You know, I'm smart, I am this, 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 and then everything that wasn't part of your telling of the story gets to leave the story. Tomorrow morning, can you do it? I know. Here's what's really beautiful about this exercise. If you can share it with someone, okay, like a partner, and say, I also want you to do this with me, because I think you also need to release the parts of your story that you didn't write. You know, think about your husband, think about your wife, think about your girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, right? It's like, how much of their story did they write? You know, Dave did not write most of his story, and I've had to help him unschool. It's like, no, that's not who you are, and that's also not who you are, and that's definitely not who you are. And because I'm a good mirror for him, and I've known him for half his life, you know, I can be an accurate reflection of that. Like, no, I know you not to be that, or I know you to be that, and you have to take responsibility for that. So I think it's a balance. And if you want to do it in dialogue with someone you trust, like a partner, I think, and invite them to do the same exercise if they're brave enough to say, whoa, dude, 2/3 of my story doesn't belong to me. What if that's what you find out? What if you do this exercise and you realize that 2/3 of your story, 75% of your story, 100% of your story doesn't belong to you? I would say 75% of Dave's didn't belong to him. You know what? That's really unfair. And I'm so glad that I get to be his partner, because there aren't a lot of partners who will do that with you, who will say, you know what, let's dig into your story. Let's figure out how much of it is yours. And then let's heal and forgive all the parts of your story that were written for you by somebody else. And then the really fun thing to do, well, Hunter, my husband wouldn't have done it 10 years ago. So have faith. If you have no one to do it with, because some people aren't going to want to do it with anybody, so don't feel bad. Don't feel bad at all. Pretend like you're doing it with me, because I would ask you, what's your story? Write your whole story out. And now go through your story and tell me all the parts that you did right. And now go through your story and underline all the parts that you did not write. And we're going to give those pieces back. My husband is trying to forgive. I think most of it has been. But sometimes when you got really big shit to forgive, you know, you kind of have to bring in a forklift. A forgiveness forklift, as it were. Do it absolutely, Jackie. If your best friend's coming over tomorrow, do it tomorrow night. I wouldn't do it past Saturday. Let's say Friday morning, afternoon, or evening is your cutoff. Amy, that's possible, and it's not scary. It's actually a huge opportunity, Amy Banana, for you to write your own story. You write your own story. What's the story? And maybe you get to a point, I mean, look, I had gotten to a point where my story wasn't resonating with me and I wrote a good chunk of it. That's scary too. You know what that means? I mean, I had to sit with that for a minute. Like, I didn't write a good story. That's scarier than someone writing a shitty story for you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, your whole story, Megan. The story. I am a very loving person. I am sometimes a resentful person. I can be very frustrated. I can be very demanding. I will tell you, one of my big shadow things for me is I'm a massive perfectionist. You guys probably don't see it. And I am hardest on myself. But at some point in my life, I have driven almost every person I love away from me. Truthfully, because I'm a perfectionist. I am a perfectionist. And so where does that come from? Nothing I ever did at home was good enough. If I colored a picture, could have been better, right? So at some point, I'm going to have to learn and accept that people can still love me even when I don't do something perfect. It's fucked up, okay? But it's like, this is it. And so what I have done is gone through my life and really created a lot of pain for people by expecting them to be unreasonably perfect. And so now with my kids, I don't have any expectations, right, of perfection. I've made sure that I have reconciled all this so I didn't, as a parent, go through and project all this shit onto. But yeah, if I got a B, why didn't you get an A? In college, I had a 4.0 GPA. Same in graduate school. I'm one of the few people who has a PhD. I think my graduating GPA was like 3.9. Because I was constantly saying, look, I got an A. Look, I got an A. Look, I got an A. Eventually, nobody cared anymore, right? Because at some point, it's not about the A. And it's not about whether you're a nice person, and it's not about whether you colored that picture well. You are worthy of love just because you're alive, right? Your beautiful butt. Your beautiful butt. All the lights went off in the room except this one really bright light. So I apologize for looking really scary at you right now. Right? Denise Campbell and I have PhDs from the same program at USC in Los Angeles. So that's why Denise and I know each other so well. And we were in classes together. We had a fucking blast. We didn't get there by not being perfect, right? So it's like this whole thing of being perfect. And I'm super not perfect. And so every time I look at my own flaws, I see them 10 times bigger because I think, oh my God, I'm so flawed, right? I'm so flawed. And so then you go to the other end of the spectrum. So that's right. Look at Colin, right? Like this is an interesting kind of pattern where a lot of us were like overachievers, but not because we were trying to prove anything to ourselves. We're trying to prove something to somebody else. And so for me to come back and be at this point in my life and say, the only thing that matters is how I treat myself and how I treat other people in my life. That's the only thing that matters. I don't have to make anything perfect. I don't have to do anything perfectly. I just need to love well and allow myself to be loved well. But man, that is, and you know, I will tell you, therapy didn't heal that. Prozac didn't heal that. The only thing that healed that for me, honestly, was doing intense spiritual shamanic work over the last 15 years. That's the only thing that has healed that for me. And that's what I'm holding space for you as well. It did. Karen, Carly, 1000%, right? Like, but you know, shit. You know, it's like, I was really proud of myself because Zoe came home from school with a little spelling quiz last week. And she was so proud because she only missed 5, right, out of 20. And I had this moment where I was like, this is a really good mom moment where I was like, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. You only missed 5. This is your pre-test. Like, that's awesome. And I could hear my mom in my mind going, you missed 5? You know, it's like, I was really struggling between those two perspectives. I'm not dogging on Prozac, by the way. It just, I tried it and it didn't work for me, because at the end of the day, like, that kept me from feeling what I was feeling. But the reality was I needed to get to a much more healed place of knowing that I was worthy of love no matter what I did. And nothing could fix that for me until I fixed that and spirit fixed that. Thank you, Hannah. It's much better. We are rewriting the script. And the biggest thing you have to know is you can rewrite the ending. And some of your endings haven't been written yet. So it could be a really, it could be neat to see what the ending to that story is like. So you're breaking these cycles, Millie. I mean, how beautiful is that, right? That's exactly the moment. You know, she said, my ex did it to our son and I could see my son starting to shut down. It's like, you know, that is the moment when you say, we either intervene here and we create a new ending in this story, we stop this cycle, or this whole thing's going to perpetuate itself for one more generation. It's not okay. Because it's really, when you do that and you kick that can down the road, it's now another 100 years of trauma in your matrilineal and patrilineal line that's going to impact your children, your grandchildren. And if not that, it's going to impact your nieces and your nephews and their children. So even if they're not your bio children, you should be really concerned, right? Or your adopted children. All the littles around you in your line are still recipients of the totality of the energy in the line, which is partly your responsibility to manage too. Whew. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people in my family who would not be able to make it without antidepressants. So I always am very careful to say, if you need them, take them. I mean, people in my nuclear family who wouldn't survive, right? So you have to be able to see the benefits of medication and traditional therapy while also exploring what's possible for you through non-traditional means too. Because I've had members of my own family who I am sure would have harmed themselves decades ago if they had not had recourse to traditional medication. It can be a dark place. One's mind can be a very scary place to live, right? Sometimes, Jill Lathers, sometimes you do, and that's a really tough one, right? There's no easy answer to that. And so that's why it's like, what I said to you last time we talked during our debrief, I think, was pick one scab. So what I want you to do tonight is write your story down and figure out which scab, because there's going to be some big scabs in your story. I want you to figure out which scab you're going to pick in this season of shadow work that we're doing together. Come up with one, right? Just one. Just one. And start there and see how you do. Sherry's scab is journaling. Yeah, we have to be holistic in our approach to things, I think. I love it. All right, well, so do you feel like your work here is clear? You're going to write your story down. You're going to look at, your scabs are hiding in the parts of the story that you did not write. Those are the sticky places. If you start picking scabs of stuff that you created, that's a cop-out. Because you're picking your own scab. I need you to think about picking something that's somebody else, that's a wound from somebody else. And then what that's going to do is, it's also, I'll leave you with this. When you heal a wound created by somebody else in your life, you also heal the relationship with that person. And if that person is dead, you help that person move into healed light more quickly. So let me say that again. When you heal a wound inflicted by someone else in your life, you also heal that relationship. And when you heal that relationship, even if that person is dead, you allow that person's spirit to move into healed space on the other side. And so you are still doing a service to your line, even if all you're doing is healing yourself and something from your childhood. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting how a lot of us have very common, very, very common. So the story constants is the story of you. It's your life. What are the dominant themes? Who do you know yourself to be? And where did that knowing come from? Did you write that story, or does somebody else write that story, right? I would tell you I'm a perfectionist. I demand perfection. I want things to be perfect all the time. I'm almost neurotic about it. I'm getting better. But I didn't write that. That's not who I am by nature. I became that because other people's stories about me was that nothing I ever did was good enough, wasn't pretty enough. It could have been better. My mom came over to my house this week and looked. I think my house is pretty. I mean, I do the best I can, right? And I'm into the aesthetic. And I have these little weird, I mean, they're weird trees, but whatever, I like them. And she walks into my kitchen and she's like, why do you have Christmas trees? The first thing she said to me, not hi or anything, but why do you have Christmas trees on your sink? And I just was like, so like, those aren't Christmas trees. And she was like, well, if they had this in it, then they wouldn't look like Christmas trees. And it's like, so my trees aren't good enough. Didn't trigger me, but what I recognized was that perfectionist part of me is not part of my story. So Constance, that was my point to you, is I didn't write that. So that's a scab. I got to figure that out. I got to figure out how I'm going to reconcile not feeling good enough. You know what I mean? And part of it is like almost pretending like I'm a duck, right? So when she comes in and goes, oh, are those Christmas trees? What a weird thing to have in July. I would just be like, yeah, they're Christmas trees. Merry Christmas, you know, and like walk away. I mean, there's different ways to handle things than just what I normally do, which is pretend I'm okay and then go cry somewhere, right? So I'm learning to be like, woo, it's Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, you know, and like have a funny, weird attitude about it, because what's the option? But once I can do that, then I will know that I'm healed. Once I can be like, yeah, and I'm going to put my Santa suit on and I'm going to bake some cookies, you know, or whatever, but I'm not there yet. I'm still at the place where I'd be like, anyway, I'm sharing my examples with you, not so much to vent, but just to let you know that you're not the only one who's got some, you know, these are some of my superficial things too, right? Like, it's weirder than that. Is being petty considered being triggered? A little bit, Elisa. A little bit. You know what I mean? People who are in healed space are not small people. People in healed space are not small people. And by small people, I mean, I'm talking about people who are, you know, are pointing out little petty shit like that. That's not a healed person. That is a triggered person. And that is a triggered person who feels, now maybe in some ways she feels like she's not as good as I am. So she has to make fun of what I have so that she feels better, right? But I know, Marian, but you know, in the moment when you're triggered, like Marian Lindsay, you're so right? In the moment I should have said, oh, and aren't they beautiful Christmas trees? But in the moment I'm like, fuck you. You know, I'm just like, or Jessica, right? My mother just offered, you know, her mother offered her $200 to do something with her hair. If you guys haven't seen the movie Bad Moms Christmas, I want to invite you to see it, because it's all shadow and it will make you laugh. It's like funny shadow. If you have time this weekend and you like to watch movies and you haven't seen it, it would almost be mandatory viewing if we were like all here in the same place together. Bad Moms Christmas. I didn't like the original Bad Moms. I didn't think it was that funny, but I think Bad Moms Christmas was one of the funniest, one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time, because it was all mom and mom shadow. And so for me, it was like watching my life for 2 hours, but with the ability to laugh at it because it wasn't mine. You guys are making me laugh so hard. It's so good. It was really, really good. All right. So our goal, right, by December is to be in really deeply healed space, which we know is going to have an impact on our mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being. That is our goal. Our goal is that you could walk into my house and be like, are those, you know, Beltane trees at Christmas? And I'd be like, they are. And I love Beltane trees or whatever. And like walk away and feel good about that. Like that's the goal. It's a dumb example, but that's the goal. All those things, right? All those things. And I see you. And so every one of those parts of your story that you did not write has to be healed. We're starting with one. So here's the commitment you're making tonight, because I'm going to let you go in a minute. My voice is about to just stop. Here's the commitment I want you to make for the next lunar cycle, is pick one scab and start there. eclipse season is exactly the season to do this work, because what it does is it brings the past up for healing. I just talked about that in the new moon ritual tonight. If you missed the new moon ritual, you got to go back and watch it. It's a good one. But what I was saying is what the eclipse does is it sludges up all of the sand from the bottom of the ocean and brings it up for healing and redistribution, right? So this isn't a bad time to do spiritual work. It's actually really well intended for work that's about healing the past. So bringing up those old nasty wounds and picking that scab off and disinfecting and cleaning it out and putting a fresh bandage on and then changing the bandages and checking in and seeing how it's doing, and and putting vitamin E on it and taking care of that wound, right? Like, that's what I'm wanting you to do. So I want you to start with one so you understand what that process looks like. And then once you get the process down, you can apply that same healing process to each one of your scabs. And, we're talking about scabs and it sounds funny, but the reality is this is what shamanism is. This is a shamanic class. I didn't call it shamanism. I didn't call it intro to shamanism. Because that can really freak people out. I don't know why, but it freaks people out. But I will tell you, this is shamanic work. Shamanic work is about going back to the core of the trauma or the damage that occurred to you, and putting the pieces back together of your soul, which fragmented and fragments each time you're traumatized. And so the goal at the end of any kind of shamanic work is that the mosaic of you is intact. The mosaic of you is intact, right? Sherry, I hear you. And Sherry, you and I have had that conversation. Didn't we have that conversation? Because I told you, I had a time in my life where somebody read my journal too, and I was like all traumatized about it. Didn't we have this conversation? Or like maybe I had it with you in dream time or something. I don't know. But I feel like you and I at some point in the last 5 or 6 years have had that conversation. And retrieval, that's right, Colin. So, soul retrieval and the reordering of the fragmented pieces of your soul is shamanism. And we're doing it through journey and through various methods of discovery, which is very traditional in a way. But we're just focusing it on healing the shadow. Yeah, I thought so, Sherry. I'm like, God, I'm having deja vu with that. You and I both have that kind of like weird thing about it. So maybe that's one of our shadows that we have to push through, is recognizing that it's safe to write our feelings, and fuck it. If somebody sees it or reads it, those are our feelings and we're entitled to them. I think that might be coming up for healing as well, right? Because people do violate you when they read your writing, and that is traumatizing to people. Lee Cummings, dude, right? I am surviving on kombucha, so I'm going to go home and put my feet up and not think about anything for an hour. But it has been an absolute beloved blast to be with you guys tonight. I think we did really, really, really good work. It's funny, the 3 things I did tonight, the psychic development workshop and then new moon and then this one, they seemed so different when I was getting everything ready over the last couple of days. I'm like, God, I'm doing 3 really different things. And then I was heading in here tonight and talking to the team about it. And I'm like, isn't it funny? Like it can seem all different. Then you realize it's all synchronous. Like the work feeds itself in all these different ways. So, thank you for that. It has been Athena overload, but you will be free of me tomorrow. I'm doing final edits on my book tomorrow. So you'll be free of me. I'll be online, but I won't be in your face. Well, Norma, and most people don't, you know what I mean? But there's this thing about, especially if the way I create art is with words. So when I write things down, those are like my paintings. It's almost like someone seeing my soul, the way an artist feels with their work. So it can be very traumatizing when you've had your words or whatever else, violated. Oh, Millie, you're gonna make me laugh and like spit out my kombucha. She's called it Athena Palooza today. That's awesome. All right, you guys. Well, I have a giveaway for you. I'm going to show it to you now, and then I'm going to announce the winner tomorrow. So I'm actually going to give it away in the group. So I'll photograph it tomorrow. I'll put it in the group tomorrow because it's late now and you won't be able to see it. This is one of the most beautiful petrified wood pillars. We have a big siren coming in right here. I'm sending love to the fire truck. Okay. This is a petrified wood pillar, and I want to make sure you can see it. the whole front down here, this is all quartz. There's a whole quartz vein. It starts here. You could almost fit your finger into it. It's probably hard to see. There it kind of goes. This is all quartz through here. This is all down here is like a quartz vein or quartz pocket. So it looks like little sugar crystals. And there's purple and indigo and pink. There's all these different colors on this pillar. So this is a $100 retail value. And it's beautiful. I think it's stunning. And so for whoever wins this is going to be your strength pillar to help you as you unpack so bravely your scabs and all your trauma. Look at this. Look at all that beautiful red and purple and pink. Isn't it stunning? I love petrified wood. It's really hard to believe. Look at this down here. Look at this all the way through here. It's hard to believe that this was a tree in a forest, isn't it? Like sometimes it's hard for me to believe the beauty of nature. So I will photograph this, put it up. We'll announce a winner tomorrow, Friday, in the Facebook group, but I wanted to show you that. Oh, fun. Yay, I know. Sherry said, looks like some scabs have been pulled off of it. It's true. That tree had some major scabs. Okay, well, so you guys are on sensory overload a little bit. Enjoy your evening. Thank you again for starting your day with me, ending your day with me. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love you. I see you. You're so brave and courageous to do this hard work. It's so worth it. I just have this feeling. I've had this like premonition in meditation where we're all going to be talking to each other in January and just saying, what a ride. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're going to look back and think about how much you've healed and let go and surrendered and released. And I think you're going to feel it physically in your body. I think you're going to be shocked at your own transformation. I really do. So I am excited about that. I look forward to that. All right, you guys, huge love, so much love. Keep me posted. I'll be in the group tomorrow and we'll get this giveaway going for you there too. So I'll see you soon. Huge love from me to you. Take care.